Hi, thank you for checking out the video. My name is Maya and I'm an online coach. I help women to develop a strong and powerful physique and a mindset to match. Today, I'm going to be talking about a really popular question, which is we're going to be talking about the physique side of things and also how the mindset can get in the way of your process in getting to the physique that you want. And this is where I think that strength training is just a beautiful thing, and sort of training towards putting a bit of muscle onto your physique can be such a nice thing, because I think that, and I am generalizing slightly, but a lot of women, myself included, have definitely been in a space where you feel like you just need to become smaller and smaller. So one of the most confusing things to know is whether you should be cutting or building first. And just to make it clear, cutting is when you're deliberately trying to lose body fat while maintaining as much of your muscle as possible. And when we're building, we're mostly focused on building muscle, eating in a surplus, which is inevitably going to lead to gaining a bit of body fat as well. And there is a really great time, especially for like new lifters, where you can sort of like do both at the same time. But generally, if you've been training for a little while, you're always going to be better off focusing on one rather than the other. And when you think about it, the methods that we're going to use for one goal compared to the other goal, they're going to end up cancelling each other out. And so you're almost just going to be staying the same. And when it comes to your fitness journey, it's a good idea to sort of like try and work with your mind. And what I mean by that is there does need to be like a bit of motivation. We do need to be seeing some sort of results. And so we can definitely do that, and it doesn't have to take a great deal of time. But what it is that you're going to need to decide which one you want to do at a time. That's how we're going to see the fastest results, the most bang for your buck. And that's what's going to keep you motivated to keep going forward. However, when you start doing one or the other of those things, especially since the goal is to be, as lean as you want to be with as much muscle on you as you want to have. So for example, when you start to build, you're going to be moving away from that lean as possible or as lean as I want to be. And when you start to cut, you're going to start to see yourself getting a bit smaller. So from personal experience, I know that I've been in a sort of, I say unintentional bulk, because the actual goal wasn't to build muscle, it was to get as strong as possible. But I've been in like a bulking phase more or less for the past 2 years, or anywhere between sort of like bulking and maintenance. And I've definitely put on more body fat than I prefer. That's where I'm at the moment. But with the goal of trying to get as strong as possible, trying to be as lean as I prefer would have only taken away from my other goal. So as I say, it just comes to a point where you just need to decide, I'm going to spend this period of time focusing on this, and then this period of time focusing on that. And that's how you're going to get the most benefit out of each period. And just to simplify that, if you spent a whole year doing dedicated bulking phases and dedicated cutting phases, you are going to be in a much better position by the end of the year had you have just maintained or tried to body recomp for that whole year. You're definitely going to see better results by the end of it. But and this is where the mindset thing comes into it, because you need to be able to take the rough with the smooth. So when you see that little bit of extra fat coming on when you're doing your bulking phase, you need to be like mentally prepared for that, and you need to be able to accept that. And then when it comes to your cutting phase and you start to see your sort of muscles getting a bit smaller and a bit flatter, you know that this is not permanent, and this is just like a little phase that we're going through, knowing that if you can get through that 8-10 weeks, that the next bulking phase is just going to be lit. So that's the mindset side of the whole cutting and bulking thing. Now I want to talk a little bit about what sort of individual might be in a better position for a cut, and what sort of individual, which circumstances will be better for a bulk. So first, let's talk about the cut. Now, if you are somebody who, a bit like myself, you spent the past significant period of time fairly relaxed about your diet, you're in a calorie surplus, and you're comfortably in like a maintenance or building phase, this could be a good time for a cut, because your body's been in a surplus for a good amount of time. And when it comes to timing, you always want to be in a bulking or maintenance phase much longer than you would be a dieting phase. So for example, a dieting phase, I don't like to run a dieting phase for more than 8 to 10 weeks. And I'd rather go slightly more aggressive on the dieting phase, knowing that it's going to be shorter, rather than sort of like just endlessly be in a calorie deficit. And unfortunately, this is where a lot of women are. And this is absolutely no shade. Literally, when I started powerlifting, I was in the same sort of mindset. You almost remember what calories work for you to keep you in your perfect frame. You remember what sort of calories you were eating when you had your ideal body. And they haven't really changed. If you're anything like me, you've been training for some time, your calorie requirements definitely are going to be changing over that time. National guidelines for a woman are 2,000 calories, and obviously that is a very general recommendation. But many women are sort of like eating anything between 1,500, 1,400 calories, and that is absolutely fine, but not for a long period of time. So yeah, of course, if we're in a cut, we can definitely be aiming to be, doing maybe a couple of weeks by the end of that cut at that sort of low calorie level. But to know that you've been on 1,500 calories, for the past how many years, sort of sitting around that calorie level for any extended period of time is only going to be slowing down your metabolism. And therefore, you're not going to be in a good position to go into a cut from there. And the next thing I will talk about when it comes to cutting is making sure that you're in a good place mentally before you start. Now, when we start to diet, especially if we're going for like a more aggressive approach with a shorter period of time, that very process is going to be a stressor on your body. So if you're already going through a lot, if you are moving house or if you're preparing for big exams, if you've got job stress or relationship stress or anything like that going on and you don't see it coming to an end anytime soon, then definitely I would say that cut is not advisable at this time, because you're only going to be adding stress, which can be of detriment to your hormones, and it's just going to make any stress that you're going through at the time, it's just going to make it feel like 10 times worse. So I definitely wouldn't recommend cutting if you are in this sort of period of your life. For example, if I use myself as an example, I've in the past couple of months been making conscious efforts to really streamline lots of things in my life. It's a good idea to do that anyway, but literally, just taking out all the extra stuff and just making things as minimal as possible. And what that's allowed me to do is just, direct my energies into much fewer things. So I'm getting to the end of the day feeling much more satisfied. It puts you in a good place. So that's something that I've consciously had to do just for my own personal mindset. It wasn't for a cut. So this is pretty much as calm as my lifestyle gets. So this is a good time to start doing a cut. So of course, when it comes to doing a cut, we're going to be adding stress. So it's a good idea to just make sure that we're not going to be adding stress on top of stress. So yeah, if you are fortunate enough to not have a lot of stress going on at the moment, then yes, now could be a really good time to do a little short-term cut. And the next thing, how much fat have you got to lose? And this is touching back on the motivation thing. If you've got more than 15 pounds to lose on an average framed woman, you may find that once you start to build muscle and eat in a surplus, you're only going to be driving that body fat up more, and you're going to be building muscle underneath. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to see the muscle that you're building, because all you're going to really see is a more size building. And that can be discouraging. So if you've got more than 15 to 20 pounds to lose in body fat, then definitely I would say that doing a cut first would be more beneficial. It just needs to be 8 to 10 weeks. Over that 8 to 10 weeks, we can look at losing up to about 10 pounds. And that's going to make a good dent in, sort of extra body fat that you're. And then we can go into the building phase, starting at a point which is a little bit closer to your overall goal. Okay, so next we'll talk about who's in a good position to build. Now, if you feel like you've always been on a diet, or if you feel like you've been on a diet for a really long time, you've been cutting carbs, you're, just getting a little bit miserable about hardly eating anything, and your weight loss has stalled, which it will do if you've been dieting for too long, this would be a good position for you to start building. And what we're going to be doing by going into that building phase is we're going to be building up muscle, which is going to build your metabolism. Because if you've been dieting for a long period of time, your metabolism will have slowed down. And so we're going to start building, which is going to add a little bit of body fat. It is going to add a little bit of size, but we're also going to be adding to your metabolism, or we're going to be building the metabolism. Secondly, if you've got lots going on at the moment, lots of stress going on at the moment, already feel like you've got a million things on your plate, but you still want to exercise, you still want to work towards something, which is great. I would definitely recommend that the thing you want to be working towards would be building rather than cutting, because as I mentioned earlier, you're only going to be adding to the stress. And thirdly, if you just don't have that much body fat to lose, if you are naturally slim, intentionally trimmed down, and now you're sort of looking a lot leaner, which is great, but then you're looking a little bit flatter than you'd like to, and this is a perfect time for you to start building some muscle and adding some shape. And if you are already starting with a slightly lower body fat, then you're going to be seeing those aesthetic results really, really quickly. So again, sort of like feeding into that motivation thing, this would be a really good time for you to really get that motivation from seeing those results come in really quickly for you, because you're going to have that slightly lower body fat, and then we're going to start moving into that building phase. So yeah, if you're in that position, that would be a fantastic time for you to build. So I hope that answered the question for some of you watching. If it didn't, just drop me a question in the comments box below. At the end of the day, the more questions that I get, the better content I can deliver. So don't be shy, just ask away. And yeah, thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll see you next time.